Welcome to the Now I Know podcast, where we cover topics to support your mental health and well-being, whilst breaking stigmas and taboos in our society. With me today is Chloe Davies, founder of It Takes a Village and co-founder of Join Our Table, and we're going to be talking about It Takes a Village. So welcome, Chloe.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. So one thing I always do, I always introduce like how I met my guests, because a lot of people actually trying out in the podcasting world, like, how do you meet these people? So Chloe and I met through a network that we're part of called MIFA. And we've been just chatting generally for months, and I just put a message out on the group chat saying if anyone would love to be a guest on my podcast, and we just sort of connected through them. And something I would say to anyone out there is it's all about timing, isn't it?
It is all about timing. We've been trying, and I think as the young kids today would say, it's vibes, but we've had such a positive vibe with each other, so everything happens at its right time, and
Absolutely.
Here we are now.
So let the audience know, who is Chloe?
Oh my God, I was thinking about this. This is such a big question. Because not only do I do a lot, but I think I'm finally like talking about the full spectrum of myself. But I guess in the short bit, I'm the founder of a global collective for Black women in Adland. And Adland, I mean advertising, media, marketing, and comms. It's called It Takes a Village. And we are really looking at all of the experiences of Black women around the world within those sectors in 3 different ways. To be seen and heard, where we look at data and insight and how we talk to and through our community. To be celebrated and championed, that is our conversation series. And then finally to have agency, because that's what we're striving for. We're striving for Black women as an individual, myself, but also as a community within an industry that has so much potential to have agency on our own terms. So that's the day job. I existed for a long time not knowing where I belonged or not knowing what representation looked like for me, and so I tried to find that in other communities. So I volunteer for UK Black Pride, for the London Queer Fashion Show. I'm a trustee for the London LGBT Community Centre, and I have been an ambassador for Mental Health First Aid England for in my 3rd year. I work with a team on utilising conversations around Black mental health, Black LGBT mental health, and we've been able to do some really great work on suicide, which was something that the team were really intentional about when my lived experience became part of the team. So I'm also a mama too, and I'll take a breath.
And this is actually the reason why I wanted you to introduce yourself, because when I've been following you, I'm like, Chloe does so much. I don't even know how to introduce you, because you do so many things.
I don't know how to introduce myself, and I didn't do it on purpose. And I think it's fair to say for a lot of people for 2023, I mean, in 2023, at least the last 6 months of like the Hunger Games meets something else. Everybody went through something, I think, post-COVID. And it was 4 years of self-reflection in ways that has brought up a lot of things that maybe we hadn't dealt with, past traumas. Having spaces like your own where we actively talk about mental health were things that never existed 4 years ago. And so I think for myself, one of the things that I realised is that representation has always been at the heart of what I do, because I think from as early as 7, I didn't feel fully represented by school or situations at home. And so I've looked for that elsewhere. And in my 40s now, those communities all give me something, which is why when you ask me why do I do so much, I don't really look at it as work. I just think these are places where I feel safe and where I understand what it means for others to not feel safe. So that's the work that I do. And then I think it just doesn't feel like work. It just feels a bit like passion and purpose.
Absolutely. And I was out yesterday with a group of ladies that I'd met for the first time from MIFA, and we were all in our 40s, and we were all walking back to the station. It was a really nice vibe.
Yep.
And we were like going, isn't the 40s the greatest era?
Best.
You know?
It's absolutely the best. Something happens when, or at least for me, I turned 40. My mindset, my outlook, I can honestly say the last 2 years have probably been the best 2 years of like growth, but also like just self-fulfillment. I feel really good in myself. I feel really centered, that I think I've finally got that, it's a word I hate about our industry, but that sweet spot of experience and age. I'm not too sure. We'll talk about the confidence bit later, but I just don't care anymore.
Yes. That is exactly what we said yesterday.
Yeah.
We just don't give a shit.
I just don't care.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the liberating part, I think, is when you stop caring about what others think and you are then your true self.
Yeah.
And whoever wants to embrace you will. Great. Whoever's don't, it's cool.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah. We have choices and that your choice is not to, and that's fine. And I think that's probably the best advice I'd give anyone that is dreading their 40s is like, it is going to be the best time. Absolutely. Yeah. It's only up from there.
But we also hope you get here quicker.
Yes, absolutely.
In our 40s, I also think that our earlies, where we tried to be everything to everybody else instead of just being who we are for ourselves. At 40 now, we're like, I'm just me for me.
Yeah.
So if you could do that when you're a bit younger, you'd be great.
And that's actually how I came up with the name for the podcast, because I was talking to my daughter about like, I wish I did this in my 20s and my 30s. And I was like, that's what the podcast will be like. Nice. Now I know. And you're right. And it's like, I want the younger generation to be able to listen to this and watch this and learn from us. Yeah. And, be that voice that they need in their ear, know. But talk to me about the journey to It Takes a Village. Like, what was the journey getting to this place?
So the journey is 7 years ago. So in many different iterations, I had been volunteering at Pride in London. I was a deputy director of community engagement. But I'm a chef by trade. I've been cooking since I was 3. Wow. My dad and my grandma taught me, and I come from an African family. And so we're feeders, everyone gets around a table. The kitchen is the busiest place, but it's probably the smallest room in the house. And I had been surrounded by all these amazing conversations, always surrounded by food. And I think now, being in a community engagement perspective, I just had this idea that I wanted to create podcasts like this didn't exist then. But I wanted to create a live, recording show where we would cook. I would do the first, one, and then I would have on celebrity chefs. And it was a bit like John Bishop meets Saturday Kitchen meets Oprah.
Oh, wow.
Go big or go home. I literally was like, and I wanted to call it Breaking Bread, and because it's a popular term that we know within Black culture. The first person I ever told was my director at the time, my director of comms, and his name's James Holt. He's since gone on to be the ED for Archwell Foundation. And so we talked about it. I was getting ready to do it, life, and I found myself in a situation that just changed the trajectory of my life. And so when you have these ideas for a project, kind of just got stored for a bit. I had my second child, came in-house to advertising, and then I was fortunate enough to go to Sydney World Pride last year on behalf of UK Black Pride and support of Lady Phil and the work that she was doing. But I also got to do a bit of Adland stuff, so TBWA, and I'd been working with Pablo on their Great Love Stories campaign. And I got the best gift that a mum could ever have, which is 2 weeks on my own. And 2 weeks on my own in a different time zone.
That's rare.
It's rare.
Yeah, wow.
It's rare. It took me about 3 days to acclimatise. And then I'd been sleeping for at least 8 hours every night in a bed by myself, the dream.
Wow.
And my brain went, okay, you're rested, you're awake, here you go. And It Takes a Village really started to shape of this kind of origin of community and food and conversation into what had my experiences been in-house in the industry, and through this perspective and lens of, particularly Black women, having gone through my own personal journey. And I basically sketched it out over that 2 weeks, came home, talked to one of the founders at Lucky Generals as I'd gone from full-time to part-time, and had basically said, I've worked it out, I know exactly what I want to do, did the skeleton. And we were due, most people don't realise we were due to launch in Cannes, 2023.
Yes.
Yeah, we were due to launch in Cannes. I was due to do a dinner for 150 Black women on the rooftop of the Carlton Intercontinental.
Oh my God.
And then we were going to do an all-day summit the following day. And that didn't happen for some very painful reasons. But what did kind of come out of that was that, I guess, in that 4-year period of finally setting up It Takes a Village and going through that process of being a business owner while still working in the industry, I guess I got to tap in truly to one of my superpowers, which is my ability to network and chat to people and kind of bond. And so I really started to like learn what it is that I needed, but also what it is that Black women in our industry needed and wanted, and that it wasn't just based on my own viewpoint. I'm not a monolith. Being in Cannes and not doing the event was a painful experience, but also a healing experience. I knew some of the Join Our Table ladies already, but I got to meet some of the others. And I guess in the bonding part, like you and I have in meeting in MIFA, what do you do? I got to kind of meet some of them and tell them about what I was building. Would it be something that they actually wanted and needed? We all talked about there being a specific nuance that came from Black British women. And I always knew that was important, but I always knew It Takes a Village was global, more than anything in the capacity of my role at Lucky's. Lucky's had a London and a New York office, and my role was global. So who I was at home in London was one person, but who I was when I was in New York was a very different person. We're having different conversations around Blackness, different conversations about women in the workplace, senior women in the workplace, race, class, parenting, all of those kinds of things. And so they were the keys, the sweet pot, the ties I wanted to make sure that we have. Join Our Table just came from conversation and shared community and, being YB1, I think when I needed to not down tools, but, heal a bit from the heartbreak of what couldn't happen and pivot and readdress and restructure to YB1 when you could be 8 and,
Yes.
They are 7 other incredible women who, all do such incredible things. And there's just, I think what was so helpful and healing was that it's just celebration. We are all so proud of everything that everybody else is achieving. We're not crabs in a barrel mentality, which, especially as a Black woman in this industry, I think I really, really needed.
Yeah.
And so, running my own business and then being a co-founder of another is it's given me a great skill set, and we launch in 12 days.
Oh my God. Wow.
We launched in 12 days.
I'm so grateful for your time there, because you're a busy lady.
We launched in 12 days. Wow. So I'm happy, ecstatic, nervously sick inside. But we're launching we're launching in a couple of weeks.
Oh wow!
I said got invitations on the way. We are one of our event pillars is DCM, and so we'll be launching at the Regent Street Cinema. And I'm really excited. I think I went to an event last night at the Ladder Club, which is run by Laselli. She's incredible. And we're in a mentee-mentor. I think she mentors me more than I mentor her. She's a brilliant mind. But it was this idea that I was talking to somebody and we talked about, what have you built? And she said that she has built something that she knows she wants to stand on in the next 100 years. And I categorically know that I've built something that is a legacy within itself for Black women in Adland.
Yeah.
And so it's that, what was last year was great, but it's not what it's become. And so I think in the what do I now know about my own business is exactly how we got here.
Yeah.
Timing is everything.
Timing is key.
Timing
and we can only say it in hindsight, right? But at the time, it's so frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in terms of frustration, I know you and I were talking on the phone the other day, and you talked about how some of these sort of self-employed entrepreneurs, it's built from frustration.
Especially for Black women, and I think, whoever is listening today, I think today's date is the 14th of March, 2024. So you will have seen the landscape for Black women through the lens of Diane Abbott.
That's all we're hearing,
where do you go from blatant public racism, where do you go from not being believed? Where do you go from people making excuses for awful discriminatory behavior?
Yeah.
For a lot of Black women who are in business, not all, when we exist in structures that weren't necessarily designed for us, and I mean this purely from a let's go to talent recruitment retention, if you do not build something that is inclusive for all identities, whether that be your race, LGBTQ plus, parenting, neurodivergence, disability, you are going to lose your staff, lose your team.
Absolutely.
And so often Black women find themselves more marginalised in the workplace, more marginalised as a Black woman, and leave.
Yeah.
You know, for our industry, the All-In census last year said 30% of the Black respondents would leave within the next 6 to 12 months. Of that 30%, I wonder how many were Black women.
Yeah.
So we know that whilst the industry is trying to do more, it still has a long way to go for Black women, as every industry does. Look at the government and our politicians. So you, for psychological safety, leave places and jobs that maybe you perhaps once loved, that you take home with you, that impact who you represent, the responsibilities that you have, and you create something yourself. You create from a frustration, you create from trauma and pain. And I think oftentimes the biggest impact on our mental health is we don't necessarily always acknowledge and understand that and then heal that as we grow our businesses. And that's sometimes why it's flawed, because the things that all women go through in the workplace are hard, but the things that Black women go through in the workplace, as a Black woman that's gone through a disproportionate amount of discrimination, I would never wish this on anyone.
Yeah.
It's made me who I am, and I'm forever grateful. But did I have to go through as much pain? Oh, no, thanks.
Yeah.
That would have been much, much easier, you know, from having my integrity, having the way that I speak, my skill set, you know, not being believed, my very being challenged or dismissed or erased because someone felt some type of way. Yeah. And then you still have to get up, you still have to go to work, you still have to make your kids breakfast.
Yeah.
And you still have to try and not let that break you. That's a hard place to exist in every single day.
Exactly.
I think that's when we talk about the frustrations of Black women, that's really what we're talking about. And I would, I guess, encourage anybody listening, go back and have a look at the Black women that have been talking right now. Like, I looked at my LinkedIn this morning and just went, I've struggled for what I want to say, but that we're tired. We are so tired. And I would love my champions, our allies, whatever language you use. I would love you to talk on our behalf. Yeah. If you know what you should be talking about, I should put that caveat. But now's the time to come together and do that. And I feel oftentimes that Black women are the least championed. You know, Diane Abbott has been an MP for 40 years, almost 40 years. She stood up 46 times. Yeah. 46 times.
Shocking.
No one else interjected. No one else tried to help. And she is the most abused MP in political history. It's right there. It's right in front of your eyes. Yeah. So I would challenge anyone, you know, what are they doing about it? Because even as I talk about it and the heaviness of talking about it, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
This is our everyday.
Yeah. And, you know, I was first made aware of it because obviously I follow Madeline McQueen, who I've met through Wackle, and she's just been like my informal mentor.
I am a member of the Compass Club. You know, Madeline always says, invest in yourself. The best thing I ever did was to join the Compass Club 2 years ago.
Absolutely. And she put a post out there about the feeling, and I love her rawness when she just puts it out there. Yeah. And something I've been saying to people at work is, don't tame your feelings. Like, be as raw as possible, because we need to hear it. We really need to hear it.
We do, and you're absolutely right. I guess my caveat would be, though, but that comes at a cost to the person who wrote it.
Yeah.
that's the hard part, is that for a lot of women, in particular black and brown women, we don't have privilege at all times. We have passing privilege, whether that comes from our role, our background, sometimes the spaces that you occupy. And so when you do face challenges, or you see something that's not right, you probably see it, and I best describe this as the matrix.
Right.
For most women of colour, we're born unplugged because we're not necessarily afforded the same luxuries. It's not as victims or anything else. I'm just as equal as anybody else, but we know we're in a system where we might get somebody ask us, well, where are you from? Or you might have somebody say to you, oh, but I don't see colour. Do you know what I mean? Something that is a microaggression that is so off the cuff, but actually has an impact in, well, do I go to work today? Like, is she, going to want to talk to me? And so when you know you have a difference that is a visible difference, you navigate differently, but you can't be the person that stays silent.
Yes.
I am a firm believer that we actively want to help, and to deny that then comes at a cost to us.
Yeah.
And so when we share trauma, share pain, it's because we're trying to make it better for ourselves, better for others. We don't want them to go through it. But that still comes at a cost. And I think that's the bit that you're saying, encouraging other people by your example to share, to connect, to actually tell. And I completely endorse that. And I'm kind of one-upping, not doubling, what do they say? Like, bet on, okay, and can you go first?
Yeah.
Can you go first instead of us? Yeah, like, could you go first instead of the most marginalised having to be the ones that fix the problem that they didn't create?
Yeah. And it's really interesting you say that, because like Colette does all this Brand by Me.
Yeah.
And she's been fascinating. I listened to one of her podcasts, and she was talking about your values in the workplace. And it got me thinking about, like, do I really want to be where I am right now? Because things are going against my values, and we don't always talk about our values, and she's really made me think. There's maybe 5 years ago this was the place to be. Maybe now something's happened. You didn't like the way it was dealt with. You don't like the culture. Does it go with your values? No, it's time time to go.
She's all the people that you've named are women that are in my village, but people that I call friends and chosen family, and like black sisters. They are part of my sisterhood. And Colette and Brand by Me were the very first sponsor that ever came on board for It Takes a Village. We will forever have such a wonderful bond. I learned so much from her, and we're both in Wackle, Mifa and Bloom. We went for the trifecta. But I always say, and it's something that Colette and I always bond on, is anywhere I go, whatever I want to do, I just want to be respected and valued. I just want to be seen in the fullness of myself. And so if you value me, you respect me. And if you respect me, you value me in terms of my remuneration, my salary, my skill set, all of that kind of stuff. I agree with you. I think I call it the panini for my mental health, because every time I used to hear COVID-19 pandemic, it would trigger me. But I feel like what the panini did was to give us a global reset in a way that will never happen again in another lifetime. I pray and I beg. It was the purest time of self-realization, because everybody had to stop and ask themselves the question, what matters most to me? When I can't see my family, can't see my friends, I'm losing loved ones, I have no idea whether my career will still be out there when I come back, because we were putting so many people on different kinds of leave or not paying them. What matters the most to me? And so this language and idea around values suddenly became universal, because everybody really thought about it and did that introspective work. And I think if you come from that kind of place, that's the best place to be. I think I've found that place. I can't do anything that makes me uncomfortable or refuse. I know that the universe will take care of me, and I have to stick to my moral code. Integrity is really expensive.
Absolutely.
And I'm not prepared to pay the price when I am not holding myself to my own standard of integrity. I just think it just doesn't work. I can't tell you to quit your job, but you know, time is short, right? So you've got to do what makes you happy, and you happy. You are the root. If you're not happy, it has a ripple effect to everybody else. Absolutely. And after last year, I did not have a good 6 months. You know, my dad is my best friend and trying to give me like pep talks and stuff. And I just kept telling him I just feel really lost and I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be for me. And he was like, oh, you just need self-belief. And I was like, yeah, but I don't even believe the self-belief part. Like, what does that look like? But I had my first child-free weekend in 6 months, which was really beneficial. I slept. I watched the Cat Williams Club Shay Shay interview. We don't have enough time to talk about it, but it was a pivotal moment in my life. And I just had a conversation with myself and said, if I want to feel different, I have to think differently. And so every day, my mantra here on out is it's just 1%. It's 1% more than the day before. That's all you have to give, whether it's good or bad, just the 1%. And that has become my value belief system. Brilliant. What I pour in myself, how I talk over and to myself. I've been ill. My kids have been ill. Like, I'm trying to do a year's worth of work in 6-7 weeks. But I feel more centered in myself because of my belief system, because of my values, than I think I've ever been in my entire career. And all the things that I manifested for myself have come true wilder than I think I ever could have imagined. So I guess I'm cheerleading you to say, take the leap. What's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely. I love that. Cheerleaders, villages, tables. Love it. All these things. Yeah. But obviously we mentioned Wackle. And so for the audience that don't know about Wackle, obviously Chloe and I are in advertising and it's a yearly event. Women in leadership and advertising. It's brilliant. If you want to learn more, go to just Google Wackle, WACL. And you were at a Wackle dinner in October. And there's always some well-known people there. So you had like Charitra Chandran from Bridgerton, Ashley Walters from Top Boy, and obviously the infamous Nishma Patel Rob, who's a Wackle president. And she was my first MD, my first job.
I love that.
Yeah, so I would have had lots of role models, inspiration. So Ashley Walters from Top Boy was on stage and you asked him, what do you want your legacy to be? And his response was, I want Black women to have agency.
Okay, so...
what does that mean?
So... let me fast forward a bit. So, Wackle, it's Women in Advertising, Communications, Leadership. It is a members club for, I would say, very senior women in advertising in the UK. It's some incredible people, and they do Wackle dinners. They have Wackle Talent Festival. I'm saying this because I'm a fully committed Wackle member, and it's done such great things to me. So, when you go and do your research, and so we had October's Wackle dinner. And so what was so special about this dinner was that Nish, our president, always does her opening welcome. And so she raised up the Wackle members who were co-founders of Join Our Table and celebrated us in the room. So myself, Maria McDowell, Elizabeth, and Yabuna, and Colette Phillip. And the room gave us a standing ovation, which was really cool. So in front of Ashley Waters, I was like...
yeah.
And so at Wackle dinners, after we've had an incredible meal and heard from incredible speakers, they open out the room for questions. And it, Colette and I love each other. We didn't mean to do a double act, but that's what happened. So Colette asked both the guests, what do you want the legacy of your careers to be? And then I followed up. And Ashley had talked about his career, starting music, being in So Solid, but also being in theatre. He spoke with so much love about his mum and his auntie, and then his wife and his two daughters, and kind of their trajectory of life, and where they were and how they are, and his home life, all that other kind of stuff. And so I asked him, as a Black man married to a Black woman with two Black daughters, what do you want the legacy for Black women to be? He gave me this incredible answer, which I will totally self-plug myself. It's on my socials, at St. Females Chloe on Instagram, so you can go and hear exactly what he said. And thank you to Colette for taking the video. But he basically said, you know, he's seen his mum and his auntie, incredible black women, do incredible things, but still face pushback and issues. And he, you know, instills in his daughters, instills confidence into his wife through love, that he wants black women to exist in a world where they have agency, where they have the freedom and the autonomy to make their own rules, to design their own careers, to not want or need any man, person, or other to determine who and how they should be. And it was like a lightning bolt went off in my head, because that was exactly what I had been trying to say in that kind of, what is the legacy of It Takes a Village? And so when he said that, I was on a dinner table. Nish had very kindly put myself, Selma Nichols, who runs Looks Like Me Casting, and Nana Bembo, who is co-founder and CEO of POC. And we were on the same table, sat together. And so Selma and I went over to speak to Ashley afterwards, and Selma introduced herself. And as I was introducing myself, someone came and interrupted, and I was like, it's okay. The timing thing, like I just said to him, I'll come and talk to you afterwards. And I did, and I said, you know, I'm Chloe, you know, I asked you the question. I'm also co-founder of Join the Table. I was like, thanks, Nish, for the, like, you know, at least he knows my face. And I said, look, this is what I'm building. I'd love to talk to you about it. And we had a really good conversation, took some really nice pictures. And we spent the last 6 months phone tag, trying to kind of get something in the diary. And, you know, we're looking towards kind of April to have that conversation about how, you know, what working together might look like and what opportunities. And yeah, it's about shooting your shot, like you just said. It's about creating what you have in the room. But ultimately, the ethos of It Takes a Village is like, I can't do this on my own. Nor do I want to.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the things that you need are like right in front of your face. So yeah, this incredibly well accomplished black man that so many of us see and identify with, whether it's your own lived experience or you just see another mirror image of yourself. I think for him to offer up as much grace last year, when I think I was at my most broken and masking it very, very well, gave me some really good energy to really do that for myself. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So what's your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I mean, I'm the mother of sons, so my children are my legacy. I think for It Takes a Village, and what we're most proud of, is there is no cognitively vast, by that I mean in abundance, data that exists for black women in Adland. Our industry is built on insight and research and data. And so that's what we've built in our first pillar. We are launching the We Can't All Be Lying survey on the 2nd of April. And it has been built by our research partner, the Diversity Standards Collective. I think I've just given you exclusives that I didn't tell anyone else.
Lovely.
I haven't told anybody else. The press release hasn't even gone out yet.
I'm going to create lots of reels for you, don't worry.
Yeah, you know, the data
Wonderful.
doesn't exist. And so that's what we're going to build from. We're going to collectively do the work. Because I love this industry. I have amazing friends, amazing black women who love this industry. We want to do the work to make it better. We just know that, you know, we can only do so much, and we need help, and we need to continue being bridges to each other. So I hope the legacy of this work truly changes things. You know, we are looking at it through an intersectional lens, so acknowledging the gender pay gap and the ethnicity pay gap. And I believe we'll be, you know, some of the first to have that kind of data. So
this is amazing.
You know,
and data speaks volumes, doesn't it? And you're going to have that, and that's the language a lot of people understand. And
we will have it globally. We thankfully, I have partners in 7 of the 9 regions that we've kind of looked and pinpointed our areas. I'm in conversation. Well, it's a great conversation with the people that I wanted to be our headline sponsor, headline partner, and that is, you know, doing what I needed to do. I think we've got about 17 partners in community groups, and we call them pillars already. We haven't even launched yet. Everybody is prepared to do the work, and those that aren't prepared to do the work, unfortunately, in every industry, not just ours, and the time that we're in now, will get left behind.
Yeah.
I think that's just a landscape for those who really don't want to make the change, and I say that because our next generation, they are holding us accountable.
Yes.
And so we have to hold ourselves accountable, and I feel that at least in Adland, data holds us accountable. So yeah,
and we're doing all of this so for the next generation.
Oh my God, absolutely. And I'm not ungrateful for what my generation before did. You know, I am my mum's legacy, and you know, my mum, Chloe Davies, she was the first black department manager in John Lewis partnership history. It took her 16 years to get the title. She worked at Peter Jones for 35 years in Sloane Square. And I actually do just want to go back a second, because I acknowledge that, like, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do if I didn't have great people around me and behind me. And at a time when the support and the people that I had and people that I got to work and collaborate with, when we created the title for We Can't All Be Lying, that actually came from Bacola Gary. And I'd really just like to acknowledge her in this moment. She really held the idea of what it was that we were building in such a way that I will forever be grateful for. And so I think it's really important that people know that too.
Absolutely. And thank you. And I think this was actually a reason why I wanted this conversation, because I get a lot of people sort of, you know, saying, admiring others and being like, oh, I wish I could be like them, but not understanding that it took a village to support us.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, in terms of a well-being point of view, you know, it's not all roses, it's ups and downs. and that village not only uplifts you, but they're there to support you when you're, you know, having your downtime.
Yeah.
And I think for you, like you say, you're joining a table, they're women like you that get you.
Yeah.
They'll know when you're down, they're on that phone to sort of give you perspective, and you'll just feel so much better.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think MIFA has done for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm with people that just get me.
Yeah.
You know.
And we don't have to have the same thing, the same space, but it's the same energy, right?
Yeah.
And so that's all we ask anyone, is just match my energy.
Yeah.
Like, just match my intention. You don't have to be at the same level. Like, I know sometimes I am on 100 and other times I'm on -20. But if you surround yourself with the right people, and you are living in a healthy mindset, even if you don't fully believe, you know, all the things, that's manifestation, you know, whatever that looks like, you'll get to where you get to. I especially when I think about, like, how the rise of social and personas and influencers and content creators, and I've just gone through an experience working on the Wackle Represent Me campaign, and the idea that I thought I had about content creators, based on what I see through community and perhaps some people who are more interested in being famous for things rather than doing the work. And remember, once upon a time, we could buy 10,000 ticks and be verified. Actually really understanding that for a lot of content creators, they created their communities and the platforms that they have because it was the only place where they felt truly represented. They felt truly seen, and the other people that were like them came and diverged in all of these places, and that's how they grew these massive communities. So there's only you in the whole world. There's only one of you. You know, even if you're a twin, you're never you're never the same. So why try and be anybody else other than you? You know,
absolutely. So I want something that you and I've spoken offline as well about is I would like you to touch a bit, but are you able to talk about the experience of Black queer women?
Sure. I mean, I mentioned it before. I was at, you know, Pride in London a very, very long time ago, and I'm bisexual. I've been out since I was 15. Went to an all-girls school. Again, we don't have enough time to cover this.
Another episode for just that, but
and I've existed in many different layers of what the full spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community looks like. In 2018, I became a volunteer for UK Black Pride, and under the incredible leadership of Lady Phil Apokajima, she's now our very first chief executive, and UK Black Pride is 18 years old. take everything that I talked about, the experiences of Black women throughout this whole conversation, and then add the nuanced layer of the LGBT community, add the nuanced layer of Black, trans, non-binary people who also identify as queer, and we look at the landscape for the trans community. So I would say that there is pain in being a Black queer woman, but I would end on that there is an abundance of joy that I don't think I could explain unless it was your lived experience, but I think you can see, and I would just specifically say through UK Black Pride, that is my chosen family. They are the most incredible people. It is now the world's largest free Pride celebration, Black Pride celebration. In 2022, we had 25,000 people that attended in Olympic Park in Stratford. There is something about being held in an abundance of love, to be protected, to protect, to create community, and to be seen at the core of yourself. That is so special about being a Black queer woman. It's so powerful about being able to connect one to one, but also build and create community. And so, I'm not having a different conversation to the one that we've had before. I think it's just more nuanced and more layered. And your layers of marginalisation, although they may have pain, your identity characteristics, your intersectionalities, those barriers that stop you from being able to show up, each teaches you a different thing, a different experience that makes who you are richer to you. And so I would probably say what the experience of being a Black queer woman is, there is a richness and there is a depth that just comes from the experience to build and shape and grow community, that has probably added to who I am and how I got here, definitely.
Such beautifully summarised. Thank you for sharing that, and I do agree. It's something we would need more time on. I want to give it the time it deserves, and I think we need to do a whole other episode on that. And so when you're free again, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a closing question, Chloe.
Okay.
So I would like the audience to come away from the podcast and say, now I know it takes a village. What would you go back and tell Chloe in her 20s about using your village to support you?
Oh, I have been answering this question a lot recently. I would say to 20-year-old Chloe, protect your peace a little bit closer, but that you have everything that you need, that your gut will tell you the people who should be in your village and who shouldn't, and listen and trust it. I think I'm never steered wrong when I listen to my inner voice. It's when I allow other people and the opinions of others to deter me from tapping into me that I am my most destructive. So I would definitely tell my 20-year-old self, you have the source, just listen and swim in it, and protect your peace, protect your energy. Not everybody is supposed to have access to you. I think when we're really young, we want to be everything to everybody, and we want people to like us. Sometimes that doesn't always work out. So I think, if I am as grown and sexy as I am now and quite happy, and I actually feel like I felt when I was then, I just protect my peace a lot better now. I think that would be my,
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much,
Oh my
Chloe,
gosh,
for
my
your
pleasure.
time.
Thank
It's
you.
been an absolute pleasure, and good luck with the launch and everything. I'm rooting for you. I'm supporting you. And if there's anything you would like to discuss again on an episode, you are always welcome.
You've got such a... I know that you're not gentle in that you're like timid, but you have such a gentle, warm energy that it's really nice to talk to you. You know, sometimes when you're talking to someone and if they're silent, you could get anxious, but yours is, and you're just, it's very inviting. Yes, I know, it's really nice talking to you.
Can I make that into a reel?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God, of course. But I meant it. It wasn't like fake. You genuinely, you got such good vibes. I get why you've been doing, you have such good vibes. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. I can do this. And
Oh, thank you so much. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chloe. And to my audience, thank you for listening.